I know and you know that content creation is exhausting. If you're already running a YouTube channel, you're probably putting in a lot of hours in researching, scripting, shooting, editing, optimizing the videos, all the things that you need to do as you are a YouTube creator. So the last thing that you probably want to hear is a guy on the internet telling you, hey, you need to start an audio podcast too. That is kind of a reality right now as audio podcasting and video podcasting are overlapping more and more. I do want to assure you that you don't actually need to add more work to your plate. It's full already. Today, we're going to be talking about how to completely break into audio podcasting if you haven't already, without starting from scratch, without buying more gear, and without doing any extra recording or production time. And we're going to talk about why your existing YouTube content is already probably a gold mine, and how to change your workflow so that your videos are doing double duty right from the start. So to understand why this is such a massive opportunity, let's talk about how radically the media world has changed over the last couple years alone. So there used to be this giant solid wall between video creators and podcasters. The two were not synonymous, but over the last couple of years, we have seen those two worlds colliding completely to the point where we literally had an argument about what is a podcast, which seems to happen every few years anyway, because people were watching videos on YouTube and calling them podcasts, even though they weren't delivered by RSS. According to the latest data from Edison Research, YouTube is actually the #1 preferred platform for weekly podcast listeners. It pulls about 33% of weekly listeners and beats out Spotify at 26% and Apple Podcasts at 14%. Another recent industry study found that 85% of customers say that a podcast can be audio or video. They don't differentiate anymore. And to be honest, the listener, the user, they kind of call the shots on what they want. What's even crazier is that 77% of listeners, according to this study, say that they routinely toggle back and forth between both. They might watch your video podcast on their TV after work at night and then flip to an audio version if they need to get up and drive, or maybe they work a late shift or whatever, like they're going to the gym. And personally, I have done this. And it was interesting after seeing this study, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I do that. Sometimes I have a video essay playing on YouTube on my phone or my iPad, and then I let it run in the background while I'm working or doing chores. So I know I'm not the only one, and you've probably done it too. So for YouTube creators, more than 500 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every single minute, and that's crazy. The homepage alone is crowded, it's competitive, everything's fighting for your attention. So for YouTube creators, you have to keep in mind that there are over 500 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every single minute. Your videos are probably not gonna go to the homepage, and sometimes, I've seen this before, subscribers don't even know that you uploaded a video. If your episode, your video, only lives on YouTube, you are locking out that 77% of the audience during the hours of the day when they can't physically stare at a screen. So how do we fix this without burning you out? Because if you've watched any or all of my videos, I talk a lot about not burning yourself out. I'm a victim of it. I don't want to see you do that. So historically, if you wanted to turn your YouTube channel into a podcast, it could be a pain, especially if you weren't thinking about doing it at the time and you were like, oh, I got to go back and do all of this. It would just be a chore, because you'd have to strip the audio out, do some extra editing if you felt that it needed it. Then you would have to go to your podcast host, copy over all your descriptions, schedule it all over again, double check, make sure that it was populated everywhere you wanted it. And for a lot of people, it wasn't worth your time. So a couple of years ago, we developed Vid2Pod. And what it does is, instead of making you do all of this manual labor, it acts as an automated pipeline. You essentially connect your YouTube channel, you choose a specific playlist, and then whenever you hit publish on YouTube, that's right, you are only publishing to YouTube, we're gonna pull the audio, grab all the metadata, your descriptions, things like that, create a post automatically for you, and then distribute it to Apple, Spotify, and other podcast apps that are out there. So essentially, it turns your YouTube video into a master asset that does the double duty while you get to go and grab a cup of coffee. Because the process is completely automated, the biggest thing that you have to do is make sure that you're more mindful of your audio listeners when you're creating your video. So if you're presenting a slide or reviewing a product or showing something on screen, because I've seen this happen, I've heard this happen, instead of saying, as you can see right here, or hey, look at that thing, because somebody's driving down the highway and they can't actually see what you're pointing at. We don't recommend watching video while you drive. Please don't do that. Instead, I would recommend that you just describe it naturally if possible. So like, let's say it's some kind of a presentation. You could say, as you can see on this chart, and for those listening to the audio version, explain what people should be seeing. That's kind of a downside about doing video to audio, is that visual gags don't always translate well to video. So you have to be mindful. That's just one of those things that takes, maybe just a couple more seconds, but it's going to make your video content a lot more friendly for both worlds. We are not going to talk about Vid2Pod today. We're going to do it in the next video, but I want you to know that I do recognize that you put a lot of time and energy and care into your YouTube content, and you shouldn't just let it stop at one platform. Get the most out of the work that you do. Like, the data even shows that your audience wants to consume your show in as many ways as possible. And audio is perfectly fine. I've always been an audio first podcaster, but video podcasting is on the rise and you're not required to do it. But for some people, it just makes more sense for them to start there because they have all of the equipment and they just work better on video. But if you want to get a jump start, you can go over to blueberry.com and sign up. I'm also going to link to Vid2Pod so you can learn a little bit more about it. And then next week, we will talk about how it works, who it's for, and yeah, I think you will really like it. The users that we have that use it really enjoy it because it's made life a lot simpler. So thanks for hanging out today. Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss that next episode, and I'll catch you later.